A clade is a group of organisms that consists of a common ancestor and all its lineal descendants, and represents a single branch on the tree of life. The common ancestor may be an individual, a population, a species, and so on right up to a kingdom. Clades are nested, one in another, as each branch in turn splits into smaller branches. These splits reflect evolutionary history as populations diverged and evolved independently. Increasingly, taxonomists try to avoid naming taxa that are not clades, that is, taxa that are not monophyletic. Etymology. The term clade was coined in 1957 by the biologist Julian Huxley to refer to the result of cladogenesis, a concept Huxley borrowed from Bernhard Rensch. Many commonly named groups are clades, for example, rodents, or insects, because in each case, their name comprises a common ancestor with all its descendant branches. Rodents, for example, are a branch of mammals that split off after the end of the period when the clade Dinosauria stopped being the dominant terrestrial vertebrates 66 million years ago. The original population and all its descendants are a clade. The rodent clade corresponds to the order Rodentia, and insects to the class Insecta. These clades include smaller clades, such as chipmunk or ant, each of which comprises even smaller clades. The clade rodent is in turn included in the mammal, vertebrate and animal clades. Definitions. A clade is by definition monophyletic, meaning it contains one ancestor and all its descendants. The ancestor can be known or unknown. Any and all members of a clade can be extant or extinct. Clades and phylogenetic trees. The science that tries to reconstruct phylogenetic trees and thus discover clades is called phylogenetics or cladistics, the latter term being derived from clade by Ernst Mayr. Three methods of defining clades are featured in phylogenetic nomenclature: node, stem, and apomorphy-based terminology. The relationship between clades can be described in several ways. A clade located within a clade is said to be nested within that clade. In the diagram, the hominoid clade, the apes and humans, is nested within the primate clade. Two clades are sisters if they have an immediate common ancestor. In the diagram, lemurs and lorises are sister clades. A clade A is basal to a clade B if A branches off the lineage leading to B before the first branch leading only to members of B. In the diagram to the right, the strepsirrhine clade, including the lemurs and lorises, is basal to the hominoids, the apes and humans. Some authors have used basal differently, using it to mean a clade that is more primitive, or less species-rich than its sister clade. Others consider this usage to be incorrect. Nomenclature and taxonomy. The idea of a clade did not exist in pre-Darwinian Linnean taxonomy, which was based by necessity only on internal or external morphological similarities between organisms, although as it happens, many of the better-known animal groups in Linnaeus' original Systema Naturae do represent clades. The phenomenon of convergent evolution is however responsible for many cases where there are misleading similarities in the morphology of groups that evolved from different lineages. With the publication of Darwin's theory of evolution in 1859, the idea was born that groups used in a system of classification should represent branches on the evolutionary tree of life. In the century and a half since then, taxonomists have increasingly worked to make the taxonomic system reflect evolution when it comes to naming. However, this principle is not always compatible with the traditional rank-based nomenclature. In the latter, only taxa associated with a rank can be named, yet there are not enough ranks to name a long series of nested clades. Also, taxon names cannot be defined in a way that guarantees them to refer to clades. For these and other reasons, phylogenetic nomenclature has been developed. It is still controversial.